Who's deciding who gets the debt write-off and who doesn't?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a kind of individual choice between one individual and another. It has to be a systemic process by which we reduce the level of debt finance money in the economy and increase the amount of government-created money. Because we have two sources of money in a capitalist economy. The banks can create money by extending loans. The government creates money by running a deficit. Now, we had, back in the early 60s, the ratio of government-created money to the overall money supply was about 15%. It's fallen so far that we've got an entirely debt-based system which has driven speculation.
Sure.
We need to create the government money to balance out the... So I'd actually have a government creation of money system approach to try to rebalance the system and reduce the private debt.
So the government, the central bank, prints money to pay off people's debts? What I'm wondering is you say write off debts and you want, and it's basically private debt that you want written off.
Yeah. Mortgages,
Companies, debt. How is it working? How is that working?
It would be a process. We'd have to give the money to the debtors rather than to the creditors. If you look at what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years, all the rescues Bernanke have done and the banks around the world have done has been to give money, create money and give it to the banking sector in the belief the banking sector will lend to get the economy starting again. Now, that is bizarre because we know one thing, the reason they won't lend is they've lent too much already. So all that money has been ineffective.
But who are you giving the money to? I'm trying to get to the better solution.
What you would have to do, and it's not easy, it's not a simple thing, it's not something I can give a cartoon version of right now. It'd be a very sophisticated
but it's a working model.
Working model, but the idea would be you would give the money to the public and say, and if the public got the money and the person who received it was in debt, the first thing I would have to do is pay their debt level down. They could not spend.
So basically a government will say, look, we're not giving this extra money to the banks. We might even take back the money that we put into the banks. We're going to give it all, effectively per capita. If you have any debts, it has to go to that.
That's right. It pays the debt down first of all. The reason that we have to do something like this rather than simply writing the debt off is that if you don't do... You give money to everybody...
It's a tax cut.
Pardon?
It's a tax cut.
No. It's very different to cutting a tax. If you give the money to everybody and then require those who are in debt to reduce their debt, then they're better off, obviously. But the complaint people make about a jubilee or a debt write-off is, what about me? I've saved money, I've bought bonds, I'm going to lose.
It's the moral hazard argument. It's basically you're rewarding failure.
Yeah, but the thing is the system has failed, not the individuals in it. And if we don't admit that, we're going to spend another 20 years in this grinding process.
But you will have people running businesses who hear this and say, well, hold on a second.
They'd be getting the money as well.
But they've been managing themselves well. Their rival, who was a badly run business and should have gone out, and the process of this of a recession would have weeded them out because they weren't well run, they're going to get a boost too.
Everybody gets a boost because we're not trying to boost individuals. We're trying to eliminate a mistake of the financial sector that's been going on for 40 years. It's the scale of what I'm talking about sounds extreme in contrast to normal policy. But normal policy has allowed a 40-year build-up of the level of debt to simply unsustainable scales.